I was doing my midnight inspection when I noticed a problem in the valve house. Valve 7 was showing a pressure fluctuation. Not enough to trigger an alarm, but enough that I needed to monitor it. The manual said any sustained fluctuation over 3% required a manual adjustment. I watched the gauge for 20 minutes. The needle bounced between 83 and 88 bar. That was a 6% swing. I needed to adjust it. The adjustment procedure required going outside to access the manual override wheel on the exterior of the valve house. 5 minutes of work, maybe 6. I checked my watch. 01:57. I could do it now and be back inside before 02:30. Or I could wait until after 02:40. The pressure swing was getting worse. 82 to 89 now. If I waited, the valve might stick. A stuck valve would mean shutting down a pump, which meant calling for emergency support, which meant admitting I'd failed to handle a basic maintenance issue. I grabbed my tools and went outside. The cold hit me like a wall. The wind had picked up. -38 on the valve house exterior gauge. I found the override wheel and started turning. It was stiff. The metal fought me. I put my weight into it and felt it give. 1 full rotation. 2, 3. I checked my watch. 02:14. 4 rotations. 5. The valve pressure should have stabilized. I looked at the exterior gauge. Still fluctuating. I needed to turn it more. 6 rotations, 7, 02:23, 8 rotations. The pressure needle settled at 85 bar and held. I checked my watch. 02:28. I grabbed my tools and ran for the pump room, 20 yards across frozen gravel. My boots slipped. I caught myself 15 yards, 10. I reached the pump room door at 02:29. I yanked it open, stumbled inside, and slammed it shut. I stood there, panting, and looked at my watch. 02:30. The footsteps started immediately. I turned away from the door and counted. 1, 2, 3. But something was wrong. The sound was different, louder, closer. 4, 5, 6. The footsteps weren't on the stairs. They were on the gravel, outside the pump room door. 7, 8, 9. I kept my eyes on the floor. My breathing was too loud. I tried to steady it. 10, 11, 12, 13. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. I waited 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Then I heard the door handle move. It rattled once, twice, testing the lock. I didn't move. The manual said the pump room door locked automatically from the inside. I hadn't checked. I hadn't thought to check. The handle rattled again, then stopped. For a long moment there was silence. Then the footsteps resumed. 1, 2, 3. They were going up the stairs now. The metal stairs I should have heard first. 4, 5, 6, 7. Back to the pattern, back to the rule. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Across the catwalk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Down the far ladder, 13 steps. Silence. I checked my watch and waited 5 minutes. When I finally looked at the door handle, I saw that it was locked. The bolt was thrown. It had been locked the whole time. I went back to the main building and sat at the desk for 3 hours. I didn't write anything in the log. I just sat there staring at the wall. At 0600, I did my radio check. My voice sounded strange. The woman on the other end asked if everything was okay. I said yes. She told me to maintain schedule. I completed the shift. 72 hours, I did my inspections. I counted every night at 02:30. On the seventh night, the footsteps were back to normal. Stairs, catwalk, ladder, 13, 22, 13. Vern came to pick me up on the fourth morning. He looked at me for a long time before he spoke. "You followed the rule," he said. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "Yes, sir." "Good." He handed me an envelope with my pay, $1,100 in cash. He didn't ask about the valve adjustment. He didn't ask about anything. I drove home and slept for 16 hours. When I woke up, my wife asked me how it went. I told her it was fine, just cold, just routine. The company called me 3 weeks later. They needed someone for Station 47 again. Different emergency. 72 hours, $1,100. I said yes because I needed the money, because I knew the rule, and because part of me, a part I didn't want to examine too closely, wanted to count those footsteps again, wanted to prove I could keep counting. Could keep my eyes on the floor, could keep the door closed. At 02:30, while something walked up 13 steps across 22 feet of metal grating and down 13 steps on the other side, something that knew I'd been outside, something that tried the door. I went back to Station 47 16 times over the next year. I counted every time, 13, 22, 13. I never looked. On my 17th shift, I found a notebook in the desk drawer. It was old, the pages yellowed. The handwriting was cramped and angular. I recognized it from the inspection logs, one of the previous inspectors. The notebook had dates going back 6 years. Each entry was short, just a few lines. January 14th, 02:30, counted 48 steps, waited 5 minutes. January 15th, 02:30, counted 48 steps, voice said my daughter's name, didn't look, waited 5 minutes. January 16th, 02:30, counted 48 steps. Something scratched at the door. Didn't look, waited 5 minutes. The entries continued like that for 3 weeks. Then they stopped. The last entry was different. February 4th, 02:30, counted 48 steps. It said it knows where I live. It said it knows where she goes to school. It said I should look. I didn't look, but I don't think I can come back. I closed the notebook. I put it back in the drawer. That night at 02:30, I counted the footsteps. 13, 22, 13. There was no voice. No scratching, just the footsteps and the silence. I waited 5 minutes. Then I went back to work. My wife had the baby in March, a girl, healthy, 7 pounds, 4 ounces. We named her Sarah. The company called me 2 weeks later. Station 47 needed coverage, 72 hours. They were offering $1,300 now, some kind of retention bonus. My wife asked me not to go. She said we'd figure out the money some other way. She said she didn't like the way I looked after I came back from those shifts. I told her it was just one more time, just to build up the savings a little more. I drove out to Station 47 in mid-April. The temperature was -18, almost warm comparatively. The snow had started to melt in patches, revealing the gravel underneath. Vern did the handoff. He looked older, tired. "You've been doing good work," he said. "Company appreciates it." "Thank you." He handed me the keys. 12 keys, same as always. "The rule still applies," he said. "I know. Even in spring, even when it's warmer, even when you think maybe it was just the cold before. The rule still applies. I understand." He got in his truck. Before he drove away, he rolled down the window. My son's getting married in June, he said. After that, I'm retiring. They'll need someone to take over the superintendent position. You interested? I thought about it. More money, a real salary, benefits for my wife and daughter. What would I have to do? Coordinate the inspectors, handle the schedules, drive out for handoffs, make sure everyone follows the rules. Would I have to stay at the stations? No, you'd just come out for a few hours at a time. Then yes, I said, I'm interested. He nodded. I'll put your name forward. He drove away. I did my first inspection at 1800. Everything was nominal. The pumps were running smoothly, the valves were stable, the generator was full. At midnight, I did another round. During the perimeter walk, I noticed something near the tree line, a shape, too big to be a wolf, too still to be a moose. I pointed my flashlight at it. The beam didn't reach that far, maybe 80 yards, maybe 90. The shape didn't move. I completed my walk and went back inside. At 02:15, I went to the pump room. I sat on the stool, I checked my watch. 02:30. The footsteps came, up the stairs, across the catwalk, down the ladder. 13, 22, 13. I didn't look. I waited 5 minutes. When I checked the window, the stairs were empty. The catwalk was empty. But when I looked toward the tree line, the shape was closer. Maybe 60 yards now. I did my 0600 radio check. I mentioned the shape to the dispatcher. She said it was probably a moose. I said it didn't move like a moose. She said to keep monitoring it and report if it came closer. I slept for a few hours. When I woke up, it was afternoon. I did an inspection. During the perimeter walk, I looked for the shape. It was gone. That night at 02:30, I counted again. 13, 22, 13. When I looked out the window afterward, the shape was back, 40 yards from the fence line now. On the third night, it was 20 yards away. I could see it more clearly in the floodlights. It was tall, maybe 7 feet. It didn't have the right proportions for a person. The limbs were too long, the torso too narrow. It stood completely still, facing the station. At 02:30, I counted the footsteps. 13, 22, 13. When I looked outside afterward, the shape was gone. I found it an hour later when I did my perimeter walk. It was standing on the far side of the generator shed, just beyond the reach of the floodlights. I could see the outline, the strange proportions. I kept walking. I didn't run. I completed my inspection and went back inside. At 0600, I reported it. The dispatcher said she'd send someone out to check. I said that would be good. She said they'd arrive around noon. Nobody came at noon. I did my inspection at 1800. The shape was back at the tree line, maybe 70 yards away now. At 02:30, I counted 13, 22, 13. The shape moved closer every day. Every night I counted. I followed the rule. I didn't look during the footsteps. On my last night, the 72nd hour, the shape was at the fence line. I could see it clearly. It was standing with its hands on the chain link, not gripping, just resting there. Its head was tilted slightly, like it was listening. At 02:15, I went to the pump room. I sat on the stool. At 02:30, the footsteps came, but this time they started at the fence line. I heard them crossing the gravel, 60 yards, 50 yards, 40. I kept my eyes on the floor. I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The footsteps were steady, unhurried, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They reached the pump room building, then they started up the stairs. 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, across the catwalk. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, down the ladder, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, back across the gravel, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. The footsteps stopped. I waited 5 minutes. When I looked outside, the shape was back at the tree line. Vern came to pick me up in the morning. He looked at me carefully. "You followed the rule," he said. "Oh, yes, sir." "Even last night?" "Yes, sir." He was quiet for a moment. Then he handed me an envelope. $1,300. "The superintendent job is yours if you want it," he said. "Starting in July." "I want it." "Good. There's just one thing you need to know." I waited. "The rule applies to you too," he said. "Even as superintendent, when you come out here to do handoffs, you do them before 02:30 or after 02:40. You don't stay. You don't watch. You don't check on anyone during that window." "Understood." "And when you brief the new inspectors, you tell them the rule, just the rule, nothing else. You don't explain it. You don't theorize, you just tell them to count and to not look." "Why?" "Because that's what keeps it contained," he said. "As long as people follow the rule, it stays here, it stays at the station. The ones who looked, the ones who broke the rule, it followed them home. Not right away, but eventually." I thought about the notebook. The inspector whose daughter went to school somewhere. "How long have you known?" I asked. 23 years, Vern said. "Since my first handoff. The superintendent before me told me the same thing I'm telling you. His supervisor told him. Goes back 40 years at least, maybe longer." "What is it?" "I don't know. Nobody knows. But it walks at 02:30. 13 steps up, 22 across, 13 down. You count. You don't look. And it stays here." He started his truck. "One more thing," he said. "The shape at the tree line. You saw it?" "Yes." "How close did it get?" "The fence line. Last night." He nodded slowly. "That's new. It's never done that before. I'll make a note of it. Should I be worried?" "Did you look?" "No." "Then no," he said. "You followed the rule. You're fine." I drove home. My wife was waiting with the baby. Sarah was sleeping. I held her for a long time. The company made it official in May. I was the new superintendent starting July 1st. Salary, benefits, a truck. My wife cried when I told her. "Happy tears," she said. I did 3 more shifts at Station 47 before the promotion. Each time at 02:30 I counted. 13, 22, 13. The shape at the tree line got closer each time. By my last shift it was inside the fence, maybe 30 yards from the pump room. But I followed the rule. I counted. I didn't look. On July 1st I started my new job. My first duty was to drive out to Station 47 and brief a new inspector. His name was Marcus. He was 24. He needed the money. His girlfriend was pregnant. I gave him the keys. I gave him the clipboard. I told him about the inspection route and the radio checks and the logs. Then I told him about the rule. At 02:30 every morning you'll hear footsteps on the metal stairs outside the pump room. They'll go up the stairs, across the catwalk, and back down. 13 steps up, 22 across, 13 down. You count them. He looked at me the same way I'd looked at Vern. Count them, he said. That's right. You count, but you don't look. You stay inside the pump room with the door closed. You don't open the door. You don't look out the window, you just count. When the footsteps stop, you wait 5 minutes by your watch. Then you go back to whatever you were doing. What if You don't, I said. You count. You wait. That's the rule. I left him there. I drove away before 02:30. That night at home, I lay in bed next to my wife. Sarah was asleep in her crib. I checked my watch. 02:29, 02:30, I listened. From somewhere far away, maybe 90 miles north, maybe farther, I thought I heard footsteps. Faint, rhythmic, climbing metal stairs. I closed my eyes and counted 13, 22, 13. I waited 5 minutes, then I went to sleep. Too short, add 7,000 more words in at 7:05 a.m. I arrived at Pump Station 47 3 hours before sunset on the coldest January day in 16 years. The thermometer in my truck read -32 Celsius when I parked beside the metal shed that served as the gatehouse. My breath came out in clouds so thick I could barely see the padlock I was supposed to open. The superintendent had driven out ahead of me to do the handoff. His name was Vern. He was 50-something with a gray beard that had ice crystals in it despite the 15 minutes he'd spent inside his idling truck waiting for me. He didn't shake my hand when I got out. "You're the new inspector," he said. "Yes, sir, started Monday. Nobody told me you'd be this young." I was 26. I'd done pipeline work for 3 years in Alberta before the layoffs. I needed this job. My wife was 7 months pregnant, and we had hospital bills from the miscarriage before this one. The company was paying me $1,100 for a 72-hour shift at Station 47 solo. Double the normal rate. Nobody else had wanted it. "I can handle it," I said. Vern looked at me for a long moment. Then he pulled a ring of keys from his pocket. 12 keys, all labeled with yellow tape and black marker. He handed them over. Station main, generator shed, tool room, bathroom, supply closet, equipment bay, valve house, pump room, the 2 freezer locks, and the gatehouse you just opened, he said. "Don't lose them. Replacements take 6 weeks. "Understood." He reached back into his truck and pulled out a clipboard with a single sheet of paper. "Daily logs. You fill these out every 12 hours. Pressure readings at each pump, temperature gauges, flow rates, any alarms, any shutdowns. Radio check at 0600 and 1800 on Channel 6. You miss a check, we send someone out." Channel 6, got it. "Station's automated. Pumps run themselves 99% of the time. You're just here in case something breaks. And to do the inspections." He paused. "You read the manual they gave you?" "Yes, sir. Cover to cover." "Good. Then you know the inspection route. Pump room, valve house, exterior perimeter, generator, back to pump room every 6 hours. Takes about 90 minutes if you do it right." "Mark the times on your log." I nodded. The wind was picking up. My face was already going numb. "One more thing," Vern said. He looked past me at the station buildings. 3 low structures connected by enclosed walkways painted industrial gray, surrounded by chain-link fence and a perimeter of gravel that extended 50 yards in every direction. Beyond that, nothing but snow and the black line of spruce trees at the horizon. "There's a rule," he said. "Just one, but you follow it exactly." I waited. At 02:30 every morning you'll hear footsteps on the metal stairs outside the pump room. They'll go up the stairs, across the catwalk, and back down. 13 steps up, 22 across, 13 down. You count them. Count them, I repeated. That's right. You count. But you don't look. You stay inside the pump room with the door closed. You don't open the door. You don't look out the window. You just count. When the footsteps stop, you wait 5 minutes by your watch. Then you go back to whatever you were doing. The wind howled across the empty gravel. I looked at Vern's face. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't making a joke. What if I... You don't, he said. You count. You wait. That's the rule. What if I need to be outside at 02:30? What if there's an emergency? Then you handle the emergency before 02:30 or after 02:40. You don't go outside during that window. You don't open the door. You don't look. I must have looked skeptical because he took a step closer. I've worked for this company for 23 years, he said. I've sent 11 people out to Station 47. 9 of them followed the rule. Those 9 completed their shifts and got paid. 2 of them didn't follow the rule. 1 of them quit after 16 hours, and I had to drive out and get him in the middle of a blizzard. The other one finished his shift, but he wasn't the same after. Had to take medical leave, never came back to work. What did they see? I don't know. They wouldn't talk about it, but you're not going to see anything because you're going to follow the rule, aren't you? The way he said it wasn't really a question. Yes, sir. Good. He handed me the clipboard. Radio's in the station main building. So's the cot in the kitchen, generators full. Diesel reserve in the blue tank will last you a week if something goes wrong with the main line. You've got food and water for 5 days. Fresh water line's heated, but check it twice a day anyway. This cold, things freeze you wouldn't expect. He walked back to his truck. Before he got in, he turned around one more time. 02:30, he said. 13, 22, 13. Count them, don't look. Then he drove away and I was alone. The station interior was warmer than I'd expected. Maybe 15 degrees Celsius. The heating system ran off waste heat from the pumps, which made sense. I'd worked in enough facilities to know that pipeline pumps generated massive amounts of heat. The trick was keeping it contained during a northern winter. The main building had a kitchen area, a desk with the radio and computer terminal, and a cot with a sleeping bag. One window facing east. The walls were insulated metal panels riveted together. Everything was clean but worn, the smell of diesel and machine oil and old coffee. I made the rounds with the keys. The pump room was the largest space, maybe 40 feet by 60, with 3 massive centrifugal pumps in a row, each one the size of a small car. They hummed with a deep vibration that I could feel through the floor. The control panel showed green lights across the board, pressure holding at 85 bar, flow rate nominal at 240 cubic meters per hour. Temperature inside the room was 21 degrees Celsius. The metal stairs Vern had mentioned were on the outside of the pump room building, leading up to a maintenance catwalk that ran along the roof. I could see them through the window in the door. 13 steps. I counted them. The catwalk had a safety railing and extended about 20 meters before ending at a ladder that went back down on the far side. I checked the valve house next. 16 valves, each one labeled and color-coded. All of them in the correct positions according to my manual. I wrote down the positions on my log. The generator shed was behind the main building. The primary generator was running smoothly. The backup sat cold and ready. I checked the fuel levels. Full. By the time I finished the first inspection, it was dark outside. The temperature had dropped to -34. I made myself instant coffee and a sandwich from the supplies: white bread, processed cheese, mustard. I ate standing up at the desk, looking at the computer screen. The screen showed a schematic of the station and the pipeline extending in both directions. Everything green. Everything normal. The first night was quiet. I did the 1800 radio check with no problems. A woman's voice responded from somewhere south. She confirmed my station number and told me to have a good shift. I did another inspection round at midnight. Same routine: pump room, valve house, perimeter walk with a flashlight, generator check. The cold was brutal during the perimeter walk. I moved fast, 50 yards out to the fence line and back. Nothing to see but snow and darkness and the distant tree line. I was back in the main building by 0100. I made more coffee. I read through the station manual again, looking for anything I'd missed. Procedures for pump failures, pressure drops, fire, medical emergencies. There was a section on wildlife encounters. Moose mostly, and occasionally bears in summer, but nothing about footsteps. At 02:15, I put on my coat and gloves and went to the pump room. I wanted to be inside and ready. The rule had seemed absurd in daylight. Now in the deep cold of a winter night, it felt heavier, more real. I sat on a metal stool near the door. The pumps hummed behind me. I checked my watch. 02:23, 02:26, 02:30. For about 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then I heard them. Footsteps on metal. Climbing the stairs outside, my first instinct was to look. The window in the door was right there, just 3 feet away. But I kept my eyes on the floor and started counting. 1, 2, 3. The footsteps were heavy, steady, the rhythm of someone who knew where they were going. 4, 5, 6, not slow, not fast, just walking. 7, 8, 9, each step clear and distinct even through the insulated walls. 10, 11, 12, 13, a pause, then the footsteps continued across the catwalk. I counted. 1, 2, 3, 4. My hands were shaking. I gripped my knees and kept counting. 5, 6, 7, 8. The sound was directly above me now, maybe 20 feet up. I could hear the slight flex of the metal grating under weight. 9, 10, 11, 12. Whoever it was, they were heavy, or they were carrying something heavy, or 13, 14, 15. I pushed the thought away and focused on the numbers. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Another pause. Then the footsteps started down the far ladder. I counted them. 13 steps. The last one landed with a firm clang. Then silence. I looked at my watch and waited. 5 minutes. I didn't move. I listened for any other sound. There was nothing except the pumps. When the 5 minutes were up, I stood slowly. My legs were stiff. I went to the window and looked out. The stairs were empty. The catwalk was empty. Fresh snow had started to fall. In the beam of the exterior floodlight, I could see the stairs and the metal grating above. There were no footprints. The snow on the stairs was smooth and undisturbed. I went back to the main building and wrote in my log, 02:30, counted. 48 total, waited 5 minutes, resumed duties. The rest of the night passed without incident. I did my 0600 radio check. I made eggs from powder and ate them without tasting anything. I did another inspection at 06:30, then lay down on the cot and slept until noon. When I woke up, the sun was bright through the window. The temperature outside had risen to -28. I made coffee and checked the computer terminal. All systems normal. The pumps had been running continuously for 41 days without any issues. I spent the afternoon going through the supply inventory. The company wanted detailed counts every shift. Canned goods, dried food, bottled water, medical supplies, batteries, fuel additives, spare parts for the pumps. Everything had to be logged. I counted 24 cans of soup, 18 cans of vegetables, 32 packets of instant coffee, 47 batteries in various sizes, 6 rolls of duct tape, 3 fire extinguishers. The work kept my mind occupied. I didn't want to think about the footsteps. I didn't want to think about what Vern had said. The 2 inspectors who hadn't followed the rule. At 1800, I did my radio check. Same woman's voice. She asked for my status. I told her everything was nominal. She asked if I needed anything. I said no. Good luck tonight, she said before signing off. I wondered if she knew about the rule. I wondered if everyone knew. The second night was colder, -37. I went through the same routines. Inspection at 1800, radio check, inspection at midnight. The perimeter walk took longer because the wind had picked up. I could barely see 10 feet in front of me. The snow stung my face like needles. I completed the circuit and hurried back inside. At 02:15, I went to the pump room and sat on the stool. At 02:30, the footsteps came again. Same rhythm, same weight. 13 up, 22 across, 13 down. I counted carefully. I didn't look. When it was over, I checked my watch. 5 minutes. Then I went outside with my flashlight and walked the perimeter. The snow on the stairs was undisturbed. No marks, no prints. Just smooth snow and the wind cutting across the empty gravel. I went back inside and logged it. 02:30, counted 48 total, waited 5 minutes, exterior check clear. The rest of the shift followed the same pattern. Inspections every 6 hours. Radio checks at 0600 and 1800. Meals that I barely tasted. Sleep in short bursts between duties. And every night at 02:30 I sat in the pump room and counted footsteps that left no trace. On the 3rd night I tried to rationalize it. Thermal expansion of metal in extreme cold. Ice buildup causing stress fractures. Some kind of acoustic phenomenon. The pumps created vibrations. Maybe those vibrations traveled through the structure in a way that sounded like footsteps at a specific time. None of the explanations made sense. Thermal expansion wasn't rhythmic. Ice didn't walk. And the vibrations from the pumps were constant, not timed. I checked the pump logs. They showed steady operation, no fluctuations at 02:30, no changes in frequency or amplitude. I looked up acoustic phenomena in the station manual. There was nothing relevant. The manual covered pump harmonics, pressure wave propagation, water hammer effects. Nothing about phantom footsteps. At 02:30 on the 3rd night, I counted again. 13, 22, 13. When I did the exterior check afterward, I noticed something. The floodlights created stark shadows on the gravel. The shadows from the stairs and catwalk fell in clean geometric patterns. I stood there studying them, trying to see if anything was off, trying to see if something could cast a shadow that looked like footsteps. Nothing. Just empty metal and empty air. On the fourth night, I almost looked. I was sitting on the stool counting the footsteps across the catwalk, 14, 15, 16, when I heard something else. A voice. It was faint, just under the sound of the footsteps. A woman's voice saying my name. I froze. The footsteps continued. 17, 18, 19. The voice said my name again. It sounded like my wife. 20, 21. I started to turn toward the window. My hand was halfway to the door handle when I caught myself. I closed my eyes and finished counting. 22. The footsteps went down the far ladder. 13 steps. Then silence. I waited the full 5 minutes. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. When I opened my eyes and looked at the window, there was nothing outside, just the empty catwalk and the falling snow. I went back to the main building and stared at the radio for a long time. Then I picked up the handset and called the emergency frequency. A man answered. Not Vern, someone else. Station 47, go ahead. I need to confirm something, I said. The 0230 rule, is there more to it? A pause. You've been counting? Yes. And you haven't looked? No. Then you're doing fine. Stick to the rule. Anything else? I wanted to tell him about the voice. I wanted to ask if that was normal, if that was part of it. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the flatness in his tone, the way he'd asked if I was doing fine, not if I was okay. No, I said, that's all. Good, maintain your schedule, out. The line went dead. I didn't sleep well after that. I kept thinking about the voice, how it had sounded exactly like my wife, same cadence, same inflection, same way she said my name when she wanted my attention, when she was worried about something. I tried calling home on my cell phone, but there was no signal. There never was at Station 47. I'd known that going in. Complete isolation. No phone, no internet, just the radio for emergencies. I made coffee and did an early inspection to burn off the nervous energy. Everything was normal. Pumps running smoothly. Valves in correct positions. Generator humming along. Temperature steady at -36 outside, 21 inside the pump room. I spent the rest of the night reading the station logs from previous shifts. They were kept in a filing cabinet in the main building. Months of entries, all following the same format. Pressure readings, flow rates, maintenance notes, weather observations, nothing unusual. Nothing about 0230. But I noticed something. The handwriting changed every few entries, different inspectors. Some stayed for multiple shifts, some only did 1 or 2. I counted the names. 18 different inspectors over the past 2 years. That seemed like a lot of turnover for one station. On the 5th night at 0230, I counted the footsteps again. This time there was no voice, just the steps, 13, 22, 13. I waited 5 minutes. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I went outside immediately after and examined the stairs with my flashlight, looking for any sign of disturbance in the fresh snow that had fallen during the count. Nothing. The snow was pristine, undisturbed. But when I swept my light across the gravel beyond the stairs, I saw something that made me stop. A single line in the snow, not a footprint, just a line like something had been dragged. It started about 15 yards from the stairs and went toward the fence line before disappearing. I followed it with my light. The line was maybe 2 inches wide. Straight. It ended at a point where the snow got deeper, drifted against the fence. I stood there for a long time, cold seeping through my coat, staring at that line. Then I went back inside and logged it. Exterior check, single drag mark in snow, origin unknown. Approximately 15 yards southwest of pump room stairs, length approximately 25 feet. On the 6th night, something changed. I was doing my midnight inspection when I noticed a problem in the valve house. Valve 7 was showing a pressure fluctuation, not enough to trigger an alarm, but enough that I needed to monitor it. The manual said any sustained fluctuation over 3% required a manual adjustment. I watched the gauge for 20 minutes. The needle bounced between 83 and 88 bar. That was a 6% swing. I needed to adjust it. The adjustment procedure required going outside to access the manual override wheel on the exterior of the valve house. 5 minutes of work, maybe 6. I checked my watch. 01:57. I could do it now and be back inside before 02:30. Or I could wait until after 02:40. The pressure swing was getting worse. 82 to 89 now. If I waited, the valve might stick. A stuck valve would mean shutting down a pump, which meant calling for emergency support, which meant admitting I'd failed to handle a basic maintenance issue. I made the decision. I grabbed my tools and went outside. The cold hit me like a wall. The wind had died down, but the temperature had dropped even further. -38 on the valve house exterior gauge. I found the override wheel and started turning. It was stiff. The metal fought me. I put my weight into it and felt it give. 1 full rotation, 2, 3. I checked my watch. 02:14, 4 rotations, 5. The valve pressure should have stabilized. I looked at the exterior gauge, still fluctuating. I needed to turn it more. 6 rotations, 7, 02:23, 8 rotations. The pressure needle settled at 85 bar and held steady. I checked my watch. 02:28. I grabbed my tools and ran for the pump room. 20 yards across frozen gravel, my boots slipped on ice. I caught myself. 15 yards, 10. I reached the pump room door at 02:29. I yanked it open, stumbled inside, and slammed it shut. I stood there, panting, and looked at my watch. 02:30. The footsteps started immediately. I turned away from the door and counted 1, 2, 3. But something was wrong. The sound was different, louder, closer. 4, 5, 6. The footsteps weren't on the stairs, they were on the gravel. Outside the pump room door, 7, 8, 9. I kept my eyes on the floor. My breathing was too loud. I tried to steady it. 10, 11, 12, 13. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. I waited 5 seconds, 10 seconds, then I heard the door handle move. It rattled once, twice, testing the lock. I didn't move, I didn't breathe. The manual said the pump room door locked automatically from the inside. I hadn't checked. I hadn't thought to check. The handle rattled again, harder this time, then stopped. For a long moment there was nothing but silence and the hum of the pumps. Then the footsteps resumed. 1, 2, 3. They were going up the stairs now. The metal stairs I should have heard first. 4, 5, 6, 7. Back to the pattern. Back to the rule. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Across the catwalk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, down the far ladder, 13 steps. Silence. I checked my watch and waited 5 minutes. Every second felt like an hour. My hands were shaking. My legs felt weak. When the 5 minutes were up, I finally looked at the door handle. The bolt was thrown. It had been locked the whole time. I sat down on the stool and put my head in my hands. I stayed like that for maybe 20 minutes, just breathing, trying to calm down. When I finally stood up, I noticed something on the floor by the door. A small puddle, water maybe, or melted snow. But the door hadn't opened. Nothing had come inside. I got a rag from the tool closet and wiped it up. The rag came away damp and cold. I threw it in the trash and went back to the main building. I sat at the desk for 3 hours. I didn't write anything in the log about the door handle. I didn't know how to write it. What would I say? That something had tried to get in? That I'd been outside when I shouldn't have been? I made coffee instead. Strong, black, burning hot. I drank 3 cups and waited for sunrise. At 0600, I did my radio check. My voice sounded strange even to me. Rough, strained. The woman on the other end asked if everything was okay. I said yes, just tired. She told me to maintain schedule. She told me I was halfway through the shift. Just 36 more hours. I thanked her and signed off. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I did my inspections. I checked the valve I'd adjusted. The pressure was holding steady. I logged everything. Temperature readings, flow rates, fuel levels, all normal, all fine. But I couldn't stop thinking about the door handle, the way it had rattled, the way the footsteps had started on the gravel instead of the stairs. Because I'd been outside. Because I'd been out there at 02:29 when I should have been inside. On the 7th night, my last night, I was ready. I did my 1800 inspection early. I double-checked everything, pumps, valves, generator supplies. I made sure there were no issues that would require me to go outside between 02:30 and 02:40. I ate dinner at 1900, canned stew and crackers. I forced myself to eat even though I wasn't hungry. I needed the energy. At midnight, I did another full inspection. Everything was perfect. No fluctuations, no problems. At 02:15, I went to the pump room. I sat on the stool and checked my watch. 02:16, 02:20, 02:25, 02:30. The footsteps came, on the stairs this time, where they were supposed to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, across the catwalk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, down the ladder, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, silence. I waited 5 minutes. When I looked outside, the stairs were empty. The catwalk was empty. Fresh snow was falling. Everything looked normal. I completed the shift. 72 hours, I did all my inspections, I maintained the equipment. I followed the schedule. I counted every night at 02:30. Vern came to pick me up on the 4th morning. The sun was just rising. The temperature had warmed to -25. Almost balmy compared to the previous days. He looked at me for a long time before he spoke. "You followed the rule," he said. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "Yes, sir." "All 7 nights?" "Yes, sir." "Good." He handed me an envelope with my pay, $1,100 in cash. He glanced at my logs, checking them quickly, then handed them back. "Valve 7, he said. "You adjusted it on the 6th night." "Yes, sir. Pressure fluctuation, I logged it." "What time did you make the adjustment?" I hesitated. "Started at 01:57, finished at 02:28. Vern was quiet for a moment. He looked at the pump room. at the metal stairs, at the catwalk above. "You made it inside," he said. "Yes, sir." "By how much?" "2 minutes." He nodded slowly. "That's close. Real close. I know. But you made it, and you followed the rule once you were inside." "Yes, sir." He started walking toward his truck. I followed with my bag. "The ones who don't make it," I said. "The ones who break the rule. What happens to them?" Vern stopped walking. He turned around. "You really want to know?" I wasn't sure I did, but I nodded. "The first one," Vern said. "He looked, opened the door at 02:30 and looked outside. When I came to get him 16 hours later, he was sitting in the main building staring at the wall. Wouldn't talk, wouldn't move. I practically had to carry him to the truck. He wouldn't say what he saw, but he kept looking over his shoulder the whole drive back like something was following us. And the second one? The second one thought he was smarter. Thought he could prove it was nothing. Set up a camera outside the pump room door, pointed it at the stairs, set it to record at 02:30. What did it show? Nothing. Just empty stairs, empty catwalk. But after he watched that footage, something changed. He finished the shift, came back, collected his pay. But he started calling me 3-4 times a day, asking questions, wanting to know about the other inspectors, wanting to know the history of the station. What kind of questions? Questions about who built it, when, what was here before, whether anyone had died here. I told him I didn't know. I told him to let it go. He wouldn't. What happened to him? Vern looked at me steadily. He took a leave of absence. Medical. Stress, they called it. 3 months later, he was driving home from the grocery store and ran his car into a bridge support. 80 kilometers an hour, no skid marks, no attempt to brake. The cold seemed to get deeper. I pulled my coat tighter. "You think it was because he looked?" "I think he should have followed the rule," Vern said. "I think when you work at Station 47, you count the footsteps and you don't look. And if you do that, you go home safe. You collect your pay, you live your life." He got in his truck. I got in mine. We drove back in convoy, his truck leading, mine following. The sun was fully up by then. The sky was clear and blue. The snow sparkled in the light. It looked beautiful. It looked normal. But I couldn't stop thinking about the door handle, the way it had rattled, the puddle on the floor. I drove home and slept for 16 hours. When I woke up, my wife asked me how it went. I told her it was fine, just cold, just routine. She looked at me like she didn't quite believe me, but she didn't push. The company called me 3 weeks later. They needed someone for Station 47 again. Different emergency, some kind of equipment upgrade that required a solo inspector during installation. 72 hours. $1,100. I said yes. Because I needed the money. Because my wife was due in 6 weeks and we had more hospital bills. Because I knew the rule. And because part of me, a part I didn't want to examine too closely, wanted to count those footsteps again. Wanted to prove I could keep counting. Could keep my eyes on the floor. Could keep the door closed. At 02:30. While something walked up 13 steps across 22 feet of metal grating and down 13 steps on the other side. Something that knew I'd been outside. Something that tried the door. I went back to Station 47 8 more times over the next 6 months. I counted every time, 13, 22, 13. I never looked. My daughter Sarah was born in March. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, healthy, beautiful. My wife cried when they handed her to us, happy tears. I took a week off for the birth. Then I went back to Station 47. I needed the money. The hospital bills were higher than we'd expected, and the company was offering $1,200 now. Retention bonus, they called it. On my 10th shift, I found a notebook in the desk drawer. It was old, the pages yellowed and brittle. The handwriting was cramped and angular. I recognized it from some of the older inspection logs. One of the previous inspectors. The notebook had dates going back 6 years. Each entry was short, just a few lines. January 14th, 02:30, counted. 48 steps, waited 5 minutes. January 15th, 02:30, counted. 48 steps, voice said my daughter's name. Didn't look, waited 5 minutes. January 16th, 02:30, counted. 48 steps. Something scratched at the door. Didn't look, waited 5 minutes. The entries continued like that for 3 weeks. Methodical, precise. The handwriting got shakier as the entries progressed. January 28th, 02:30, counted. 48 steps, it's getting closer, started on the gravel tonight, still didn't look, waited 5 minutes. January 30th, 02:30, counted. 48 steps, door handle rattled, it knows I'm here, still didn't look, waited 5 minutes. February 2nd, 02:30, counted. 48 steps, voice sounds like my wife now, saying my name, still didn't look, but I'm tired, so tired. Then the last entry. February 4th, 02:30, counted. 48 steps, it said it knows where I live, it said it knows where my daughter goes to school. It said I should look, it said it would show me something important. I didn't look. But I don't think I can come back here. I don't think I can keep doing this. If someone reads this, follow the rule. Don't look, no matter what it says, no matter what it promises. Just count and wait and go home. The handwriting on that last entry was barely legible. The letters twisted and cramped. I closed the notebook carefully. I put it back in the drawer exactly where I'd found it. That night, at 02:30, I counted the footsteps. 13, 22, 13. There was no voice, no scratching, just the footsteps and the silence. I waited 5 minutes, then I went back to work, but I couldn't stop thinking about the notebook, about the inspector who'd written it, about his daughter. The next day, I called Vern on the radio during a scheduled check. I found a notebook, I said, in the desk, old inspection notes. There was a long pause. Did you read it? Vern asked. Yes. And? Who was he? The inspector who wrote it? His name was Miller, Robert Miller. Good man. Worked here for 3 years before he quit. What happened to him? He quit. Took another job. Last I heard, he moved to British Columbia with his family. He's okay? As far as I know. Why? I didn't answer right away. I was trying to figure out how to ask the question. The notebook, I said finally. He wrote that something threatened his daughter. He followed the rule, Vern said. He counted. He continued 7:10 a.m., didn't look, so he was fine. But he quit. That's his choice. Some people can't handle it, the isolation, the cold, the rule. They do a few shifts and they're done. Nothing wrong with that. And his daughter? She was okay? As far as I know, yes. Look, I'm not a social worker. I don't track people after they leave. I know Miller worked here for 3 years. I know he followed the rule. I know he got paid and went home safe every time. That's all I know. Okay, I said. Okay. You having second thoughts? Vern asked. No. Good, because you're doing good work. Company appreciates it. Keep following the rule and you'll be fine. He signed off. I went back to my duties. But I kept thinking about Miller, about his daughter, about whether he'd really moved to British Columbia, or if that was just what Vern had been told. On my 11th shift, something new happened. I was doing my midnight inspection, walking the perimeter with my flashlight when I noticed something near the tree line. A shape, too big to be a wolf, too still to be a moose. I pointed my flashlight at it. The beam didn't reach that far, maybe 80 yards, maybe 90. The shape didn't move. I stood there for a full minute watching it, waiting for it to move. It didn't. I completed my perimeter walk and went back inside. I logged it. Exterior check, large shape visible at tree line northeast sector, approximately 80 to 90 yards from fence, no movement observed, possible wildlife. At 02:30 I counted the footsteps, 13, 22, 13. When I looked outside afterward, the shape was closer, maybe 60 yards now, still at the tree line but definitely closer than before. I logged it again. Exterior check post 02:30, shape at tree line has moved closer, approximately 60 yards from fence, still no identifying movement. The next night I did my midnight inspection and looked for the shape. It was still there, 50 yards from the fence now. At 02:30 I counted, 13, 22, 13. Afterward the shape was 40 yards away. On the third night of that shift it was 30 yards from the fence. I could see it more clearly in the floodlights now. It was tall, maybe 7 feet. The proportions were wrong, the limbs too long, the torso too narrow. It stood completely still, facing the station. I logged every observation. I reported it on my radio checks. The dispatcher told me to keep monitoring it. She said they'd send someone out to check if it stayed after my shift ended. At 02:30 I counted the footsteps, 13, 22, 13. When I looked outside, the shape was gone. I found it an hour later when I did my next perimeter walk. It was standing on the far side of the generator shed, just beyond the reach of the floodlights. I could see the outline, the strange proportions, the way it stood without moving, without swaying, perfectly still in the -30 wind. I kept walking. I didn't run. I didn't change my pace. I completed my inspection and went back inside. At 0600 I reported it. The dispatcher said they'd send someone. Nobody came. I completed the shift. On my last night, the shape was back at the tree line, maybe 70 yards away. At 02:30 I counted 13, 22, 13. Vern came to get me in the morning. I told him about the shape. He nodded like he'd heard it before. "You followed the rule?" he asked. "Every night." "Then you're fine." "But what is it?" "I don't know. I've heard about it from other inspectors. Some see it, some don't. Long as you follow the rule, it stays out there." "Out where?" "At the tree line, where it belongs." He handed me my pay, $1,200. "Company wants to offer you something," he said. "Permanent position, same work, same shifts, but guaranteed. No more waiting for calls. You'd be the primary inspector for Station 47. $1,400 per shift, benefits after 6 months. I thought about it, $1,400. Benefits, security. "What's the catch?" I asked. "No catch. You've proven you can handle it. You follow the rule, you do good work. Company wants to keep you." "How many shifts?" 2 per month, 3 days each. Rest of the time you're home. 6 days a month, 96 days a year. 96 nights of counting footsteps, 96 times watching for shapes at the tree line. I need to talk to my wife, I said. Fair enough. Let me know by next week. I drove home. I didn't sleep in the truck this time. I wanted to get home, wanted to see Sarah, wanted to see my wife. When I got there, my wife was feeding Sarah. She looked tired. The baby was 2 months old and sleeping badly. My wife had dark circles under her eyes. "How was it?" she asked. "Cold," I said, "but fine. You look exhausted." "I am." She shifted Sarah to her other arm. "The company called yesterday. They said they wanted to make you an offer." "They told you?" "They wanted to make sure you'd consider it. They said it was a permanent position, good money." "What did you say?" "I said I'd talk to you." She looked at me steadily. "I said I'd support whatever you decided, but I need you to be honest with me. Is this job safe?" I thought about the footsteps, the door handle, the shape at the tree line, the notebook in the drawer. "Yes," I said, "as long as I follow the procedures." "And you follow them?" "Always." She was quiet for a moment. Sarah had fallen asleep in her arms. My wife looked down at our daughter, then back at me. "We need the money," she said. "We both know that. But I need you more. Sarah needs you more. So if this job is dangerous, really dangerous, I'd rather figure something else out." "It's not dangerous," I said. "It's just cold and lonely, but I'm good at it, and the money would really help." She nodded slowly. "Okay, if you're sure." "I'm sure." "Then take it, but promise me something." "What?" "If it ever stops feeling safe, if you ever feel like something's wrong, you quit. No discussion, you just quit." "I promise." She smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. "Good, now go sleep. You look like hell." I slept for 14 hours. When I woke up, I called Vern and told him I'd take the permanent position. "Good," he said. "You start next month. 2 shifts. February 10th through 13th and February 24th through 27th. I'll send you the paperwork." I worked Station 47 for the next 8 months. 2 shifts per month, like Vern said. $1,400 per shift. The money helped. We paid off the hospital bills. We started saving for a house. Every shift was the same. Inspections every 6 hours. Radio checks at 0600 and 1800. Counting at 0230, 13, 22, 13. I saw the shape at the tree line on most shifts. Sometimes it was close, sometimes it was far. It never crossed the fence. I followed the rule. I counted. I didn't look. In August, Vern called me. He said he was retiring. He said the company wanted me to take over as superintendent. "What would that mean?" I asked. "Coordinate the inspectors, handle the schedules, drive out for handoffs. Make sure everyone follows the rules. Salary position, $65,000 a year, benefits, company truck." "Would I still work the shifts?" "Only in emergencies, when someone can't make it. Most of the time you just do handoffs." "And the handoffs, they're before 0230? "Always. You drive out, brief the new inspector, hand over the keys and drive away. You're never there after dark." $65,000 a year. Benefits, a company truck, no more 3-day shifts in the freezing cold. When would I start? July 1st. I'll train you for a month before that, show you the systems, introduce you to the other inspectors. "Okay," I said, "I'll do it." "Good. You're a good fit for this. You understand the rule. You'll make sure the others understand it too." I worked my last shift as an inspector in June. The temperature was only -10, almost warm. The snow had started to melt in patches, revealing the gravel underneath. On the last night at 02:30, I counted the footsteps for what I thought would be the final time. 13, 22, 13. When I looked outside, the shape was at the fence line, maybe 20 yards from the pump room, closer than I'd ever seen it. I logged it. Exterior check. Shape at fence line, 20 yards from pump room. Closer than previous observations. Still outside fence. Vern came to get me in the morning. He looked at my logs carefully. "It's getting closer," he said. "I noticed. But still outside the fence." "Yes. And you followed the rule?" "Every time." He nodded. "Then you're fine. But when you're superintendent, you tell the inspectors about this. Tell them the shape might be close. Tell them it doesn't matter. As long as they follow the rule, it stays where it is." "I will." He handed me a folder. "Contract. Read it over, sign it, mail it back. You start July 1st. I signed the contract that night. My wife read it first, checking every clause, making sure everything was fair. When she handed it back, she smiled. "You did it," she said. "A real job, a real salary." "I did. I'm proud of you." I started as superintendent on July 1st. Vern spent 2 weeks training me, showing me the systems, the schedules, the procedures, how to coordinate inspectors, how to handle emergencies, how to brief new people. "The most important thing," he said on my last day of training, "is the rule. You make sure everyone understands it. You make sure they follow it. That's your job. That's what keeps everyone safe." "I understand." "Some of them will ask questions. They'll want to know why. They'll want explanations. You don't give them explanations. You just tell them the rule. What if they push? You tell them it's company policy. You tell them it's non-negotiable. You tell them that 11 people have followed the rule and gone home safe. And 2 people didn't follow it, and those 2 aren't here anymore." "Okay." He looked at me seriously. "You've done 34 shifts at Station 47. You followed the rule every time. You know what happens at 02:30. You know about the shape. You know it's real, but you don't tell the new inspectors any of that. You just tell them to count, to not look, to wait 5 minutes. That's all they need to know." "Why not tell them everything?" "Because if you tell them too much, they'll think too much. They'll try to rationalize it. They'll try to explain it. And then they'll convince themselves it's safe to look, that they're smart enough to handle it. And then they'll break the rule. And if they break the rule, then you drive out and get them. And you hope they're still in one piece." My first assignment as superintendent was to brief a new inspector named Marcus. He was 24. His girlfriend was pregnant. He needed the money. I drove out to Station 47 and met him at the gatehouse. He was nervous, fidgeting with his jacket, looking around at the empty gravel and the distant tree line. I gave him the keys. I gave him the clipboard. I told him about the inspection route, the radio checks, the logs. Then I told him about the rule. At 02:30 every morning you'll hear footsteps on the metal stairs outside the pump room. They'll go up the stairs, across the catwalk, and back down. 13 steps up, 22 across, 13 down. You count them. He looked at me the same way I'd looked at Vern 2 years ago. "Count them," he repeated. "That's right. You count, but you don't look. You stay inside the pump room with the door closed. You don't open the door. You don't look out the window, you just count." When the footsteps stop, you wait 5 minutes by your watch. Then you go back to whatever you were doing. What if I need to be outside at 02:30? Then you handle whatever you need to handle before 02:30 or after 02:40. You don't go outside during that window. What happens if I do? Don't, I said, just don't. He looked like he wanted to ask more questions, but something in my face must have stopped him. Okay, he said, I'll follow the rule. Good. I left him there. I drove away before dark, before 02:30, before the footsteps came. That night at home, I lay in bed next to my wife. Sarah was asleep in her crib. I checked my watch without meaning to. 02:29, 02:30. I listened. From somewhere far away, maybe 90 miles north, maybe farther, I heard them, faint but unmistakable. Footsteps on metal. I counted. 13, 22, 13. I waited 5 minutes, then I went to sleep. I've been superintendent for 4 months now. I've briefed 8 new inspectors. Marcus is still working Station 47. He's done 10 shifts. His son was born in September, 7 pounds, 2 ounces, healthy. I see Marcus at the handoffs. He looks tired. He looks older than he did in July. But he follows the rule. Last week I drove out to Station 47 to drop off supplies. It was afternoon, -18. Marcus was on hour 55 of his shift. I gave him the supplies and checked his logs. Everything was perfect. Pressure readings exact. Flow rates nominal. Every inspection completed on time. You're doing good work, I told him. Thank you. Any problems? He hesitated. The shape at the tree line, you know about it? Yes. It's been getting closer. Last night it was at the fence, maybe 15 yards from the pump room. Did you follow the rule? Yes, counted at 02:30, didn't look. Then you're fine. But what is it? I looked at him. He was tired, scared. But he'd followed the rule. He deserved something. I don't know what it is, I said, and nobody does. But I know that if you count and don't look, it stays where it is. It doesn't cross the threshold. It doesn't come inside. As long as you follow the rule, you're safe. Safe, he repeated like he was testing the word. Safe, I said. I did 34 shifts here. I saw the shape. I heard the footsteps. I followed the rule. And I went home every time. He nodded slowly. Okay. 2 more shifts this month, I said. Then you're done until January. Can you do 2 more? Yes. Good. Keep following the rule. I left him there and walked back to my truck. Before I got in, I looked at the tree line. The shape was there, maybe 70 yards out. Tall, wrong proportions, perfectly still. I got in my truck and drove away. That night at 02:30, I heard the footsteps from my bed at home. I counted them like always, 13, 22, 13. I waited 5 minutes. Then I went back to sleep. Because I know the rule, because I follow it, because that's what keeps it contained. Keeps it at the stations, keeps it away from home, away from my wife, away from my daughter, as long as I count, as long as I don't look, as long as I wait 5 minutes at 02:30. While something walks up 13 steps across 22 feet of metal grating and down 13 steps on the other side. Something that has been walking those steps for 40 years at least, maybe longer. Something that knows when you break the rule. Something that remembers. I write these words now as a record, as guidance for whoever comes after me, when I retire, when someone else becomes superintendent. Follow the rule, count the footsteps, don't look. Wait 5 minutes, that's all you need to know, that's all any of us needs to know. The company is expanding. 2 new stations coming online in March, Station 48 and Station 49. They've asked me to develop the protocols, the inspection procedures, the safety rules. I'm writing them now, standard procedures for most of it. Pump maintenance, valve checks, generator protocols, radio schedules, and one special rule. For 0230. Because I think the footsteps will be at those stations too. I think whatever walks at Station 47 isn't limited to just one place. I think it's part of this, part of the cold, part of the isolation, part of the job. So I'm writing the rule into the official protocols, making it mandatory, making it non-negotiable. At 0230, count the footsteps. Don't look. Wait 5 minutes. That's the rule. And if you follow it, you'll go home safe. You'll collect your pay, you'll see your family, you'll live your life just like I have. Just like Marcus has, just like the 9 inspectors before us who followed the rule. Don't think about what it is. Don't try to explain it. Don't convince yourself you're smart enough to handle it. Just count. Just wait. Just follow the rule. Because at 0230 something walks at Station 47. And it will walk at Station 48 and Station 49 and wherever else we build in the cold and the dark and the isolation. It walks. And we count. And we don't look. And we survive. That's the rule. The only rule that matters. 13, 22, 13. Count them. Don't look. Wait 5 minutes. And go home safe.